Hello, and welcome back to the Yay for Business podcast. It's me, Courtney Shaw. This is episode number 43. And in this episode, I'm going to be sharing my top 5 copywriting tips. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, this month is going to be all about copywriting. So today's episode, we're going to kick it off with just 5 of my best copywriting tips. In case you are unaware, my origins in online business is as a copywriter. And I was a general website copywriter for a while before really starting to specialize in sales page copy for entrepreneurs and service providers and course creators and things like that. And so what we're going to be doing is for our Yay for 100K clients on September 8th, I'm going to be doing a whole copywriting workshop. And our clients already get inside of Yay for 100K templates on, here's sales emails templates, here's social post templates for, different types of social posts. Here's your webinar template, your sales page template, etc. But this class is meant to be more of a foundation on how to become a great copywriter, the psychology of it, the psychology of sales, and also breaking down even just the copywriting process. So it's not specifically around templates and things because our clients already have that, but more of that like mastering the skill of copywriting. So I'm going to be sharing a lot about copywriting this month in particular, and I want to let you know that if you're interested in joining us inside of Yay for 100K, that we would love to have you enroll this month so that you will be able to join us on September 8th for our copywriting workshop. And if you can't make it live to the workshop, no worries. It's going to be recorded and put inside of our portal for our clients, so you'll be able to watch it at any time. All right, so that's really what this month is all about. Is copywriting, because I believe every single business owner is imperative that they become their own world-class copywriter for their business. That this is not something that you can outsource in the beginning. It's something that you need to really do your best to build this skill. Maybe you're not cut out to be like a wonderful, amazing, incredible copywriter, and that's not really your thing. That said, you still need to have the foundation because you cannot outsource the core messaging for your business. You have a responsibility to really hone in on that. People can support you with that, right? You can get some coaching around it. You can get some help from experts on how to hone in on it, all of that, but no one can create that messaging for you. And so it's really important that you do what you need to do to learn this skill as much as you can, so that when you do start to outsource copywriting, if that's what your goal is, that you'll know if the messaging is on point. Is this going to resonate with our target clients? Is this the kind of language that's going to, hit them in the gut and make them go, oh yes, that's what I need. This person gets me. You know what I mean? So let's talk about quickly these 5 tips that I have for you. And I hope that these will give you some tangibles that you can actually take a piece of copy maybe you're working on right now. It could be something as small as an Instagram post, or it could be something as large as your Work With Me page. And you can run that piece of copy through these filters and through this process to practice, because practice is going to be so important. In fact, one of the things I want to encourage you to do, this is not one of the tips, but it's just the foundation of everything, is that I want you to commit to writing something every day. That as a business owner, as an online business owner, you are going to be writing a lot. And so it could be, replying an email in customer service. It could be something as small as that, but that in every single piece of writing you do, that you consider it as strategic and as a piece of copy that has a goal and an intention, because it does, even things like customer service responses. Okay, the first big core tip I have for you is that you must use your target client's language in your copy. Now, the previous episode I did is all about this. We talked about reading your target client's minds. That's what I'm talking about here, is you really need to get inside of their heads and how they're describing what their core problem is, what their desire is, what they think they need, all of that. And a lot of entrepreneurs get really hung up here because they'll go, well, am I supposed to speak in my voice or their voice? And I think that shows a misunderstanding of what we mean by using our target client's language, right? Because obviously you are you and you use your voice when you speak. But even in a normal human conversation, if you only talk about things that you're interested in and what you think other people need and the way that you explain it, and you never tailor the way that you're explaining something or talking to someone in a way that resonates with them, if you don't take their point of view and how they think into account, you're going to struggle to communicate. So it's not about like you use your language or you use their language. And I don't mean like actual different languages, but sometimes it can feel that way. What I mean is, as being you, that it's your responsibility in sales, because you are in sales, to learn how your target clients are expressing and thinking about their problem, desired result, and what they think they need to get there, what they think is in their way, what they think their obstacles are, etc. The rookie mistake that people make is to speak in quote unquote like professional language or industry lingo. This comes from what is known as the curse of knowledge, is that because you're the expert in what you do, and you need to pay extra special attention to this if you are, the more expertise you have, the more difficult it can be for you with this, because you might have a master's degree in what you do. Let me think of an example of something. You might have a master's degree in psychology, and you're working with people on sales, right? And so you want to teach them how to use psychological principles in their selling to make sure that their selling is effective. You need to remember that your clients do not have a master's degree in psychology, that when you're telling them in your copy what they need to do, you need to, and for lack of a better term, dumb it down to their level and what they understand. Because if you start selling them on certain theories and using terms in psychology that they don't resonate with, they're going to go, oh, wow, that person's really smart, but I don't really necessarily know if that's what I need, because you're not speaking the words and the language in the way that they're thinking about and feeling the problem. I remember once, so my dad works in sales, and he does some pretty technical telecommunications sales stuff that I don't understand. And I remember, like, this must have been more than 10 years ago, that I went to a networking group with him, and he had to talk about what he did, and it was really technical, right? And so this general audience, like, they weren't his typical target client, right? So he actually needed to dumb it down, right? Or simplify it even more for this audience, because they were not even his target audience. So they really needed the most general way of explaining what it is that he did. Because even when he tried to use language that he would use with a client, the people who were not even at that level of being a client didn't quite understand. So there were a lot of questions around it. So we want to make sure that you might not be working in what you think is a technical field, but I want you to consider that because you are an expert in what you do, I don't care if you're a VA, a photographer, a jewelry designer, I don't care what it is, there is industry lingo that you need to be very careful of overusing in your copy, because your target clients are not going to understand. Inside of VA for 100K, we talk about this as selling the rainbow, because I teach my concept, the rainbow of sales. I did a whole podcast episode on this, but really the rainbow is the how. And a lot of people in their sales copy or copy in general is they'll really go to town on selling people on what they need to do. Here's the steps, here's the how-to, but they forget to anchor that with, here's why you even want to do that in the first place. Here's the why. And as Simon Sinek famously said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Why should they care? So this is really about working your empathy muscle. Again, previous episode was all about this. I'm probably repeating myself a little bit, but there is nothing more important in marketing, in sales, in positioning than this lesson. So I don't think I can talk about this enough. Tip number 2 that I have for you on becoming an excellent copywriter is to let it be shitty. Yes, you heard me right. I often use this motto when I'm teaching copy because what I notice in novice, newbie copywriters is that there is a lack of a process for writing copy. So the tendency that we all have is to open up a Word doc or open up Instagram or open up your website and like go straight into writing the copy in its final form, right on the page, right there, writing that caption right in Instagram in that moment. And because at that time it's requiring way too much from you, it's requiring you to be creative, right? You're creating the copy. It's requiring you to be strategic, right? Like, what's the goal of this copy? It's requiring you to think about like the structure and the template of the copy. It's requiring you to think about sentence structures. It's requiring you to edit as you write. This is why this is so impossible, because you're basically overtaxing your system because you're asking your brain to do too many things all at once. The only people who can successfully whip open Instagram or a Word document and type something in its final form, nobody's really great at that. But the people who can get away with it more often than not are people who have practiced. They have unconscious competence. It's automatic for them. They've been writing for so long, it requires much less effort because there's a lot of muscle memory. There's a lot of automation there for them. But even someone like me, I still have most of the time a pretty broken down writing process because I know that in order to come up with my most creative stuff, my most original stuff, which is the stuff that performs the best, converts the best. Why do you want to be creative? Because it works in business. You don't want to remain being a derivative of what everyone else is doing. And we'll talk about why being a derivative is actually important in the beginning, but that's not our goal. We need to break down that writing process. And this is where my motto, let it be shitty, came from, is that you need to make sure that you're using a step-by-step writing process. Start with a brainstorm. I love mind maps or, webs, whatever you want to call them, because they imitate the way that the brain actually functions by triggering different neural pathways and connecting ideas together. So even this weekend, this past week, I had to make a list of everything that I need to do before we move into our new condo at the end of August. And I created a mind map because I realized it's such a big thing to move, right? There's so many moving parts to that. There's so many aspects to it that I needed to first start with different categories. So I created a mind map and I started with, okay, first thing is like the actual move itself. Okay, so we need to get moving materials. We need to book our mover. We need to declutter our current apartment. We need to pay our condo building to reserve the elevator for our move. We need to, and so I was able to then within those things, I could branch out into even more details there. Okay, how do I reserve the elevator? First, I will need to inform our landlord that we're moving. Then I will need to talk to the caretaker of the building. I will need to pay a fee. I will need to, get that confirmation, right? So we could break that down into steps. But if I just sat down and was like, okay, make a list of everything to do for the move, it would be overly taxing on my brain because there's too many moving parts. So this is where a brainstorm can be really effective. And specifically something like a mind map or even a free write. I'll often start my brainstorms with a question on a piece of paper. What is it that I need to do this week? And then I'll just start writing. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm really stressed because I haven't done my taxes yet. Okay, so what do I need to do to get that done? And it's just this free flowing, open-ended stream of consciousness that helps my brain come up with the ideas in a very unpolished manner. And if you skip this step, what's going to happen is you might have like a technically, the template of your Instagram caption is like similar to what someone else has used. And, it's fine, but it's just not going to hit that level of, again, like hitting people in the gut, like waking them up, making them pause and go, wow, this was a great caption. Like, how did they come up with this? Because you just tried to fit yourself into a box and you were unable to come up with your best ideas because you didn't go through the brainstorming process. And that requires letting it be shitty. It's not going to be polished. It's not supposed to be. Nothing is supposed to be polished on the first draft. So I want you to borrow that motto, write it on a sticky note. It's one of my favorites because it really helps remove that perfectionism. Okay, tip number 3 I have for you is to start with a template. All right. So this is a little bit like, it's not contradicting my last point. We need to do our brainstorming and we need to let it be shitty. At the same time, you also need to learn what works in copy and stop trying to reinvent the wheel. And you need a container to get started, because if you're not a copywriting expert, you don't know the basics. And I really believe in learning the rules before you break them. You don't have to become a master of the rules, but you need to learn the overall formula, framework, strategy of how something works before you come and like disrupt it and become, change out everything, right? Really important. So our clients inside of E500K get templates for literally every single piece of copy that they will need to create to implement the program. Everything. And I even just this past week, I was like, ooh, we should add this template in there because I just told someone to send that kind of email, and let's pull an example of something we've done. And so I want to give a starting point because I think examples are so helpful for learning. Examples are such a good learning tool. I think when you're starting off learning something new, let's say you're learning to draw. I was just taking, I was going to say a class, but I was watching some YouTube videos learning to draw human bodies, right? And it started with, parts of the face. So we started with eyes and nose and mouth. And so what I was doing in the video is you would look at an example of eyes that someone else drew and imitate it. Right? And then after you did a lot of different styles of eyes and you had all these examples, you could start to get a sense of like, oh, this is the type of stylized eye that I am drawn to drawing, right? But like on the first day, week, month that I'm drawing eyes, I'm not going to really have my own perspective yet because I'm learning the mechanics. I'm learning the rules before I break them. I need to learn what an eye looks like. What are the core elements of an eye in a drawing to make it recognizable as an eye before I start making up my own stuff, right? I need to learn the framework or the foundation. And the same thing applies to copy. I give our clients all these templates, not because I want all of their copy to look and sound exactly the same. I don't. And I absolutely encourage you listening, if you're using our templates, use them. Like the first time you use them, if sticking really close to the template is the best you've got, then do that. And then the next time you launch, let's change it up a bit. Let's get a little bit more creative because now you have that foundation. Let's switch it up so that your copy is even more unique to your business. But writers start, and this is every sort of skill or creative skill that people learn, but writers often start by imitating writers that they admire. And yes, this can make you sound a bit derivative. I know if I look back at some of my first copy for my business, I sounded a lot like two entrepreneurs in particular blended together because I was so obsessed with those two entrepreneurs' writing styles that I was borrowing elements from things they were doing. I wasn't copying their writing. This is really important. We'll talk about this in the next tip. But I was inspired. And so I was finding ways of, what is it about what that other person is doing that I like and using it in my writing. So you're going to start out by probably imitating someone you admire. If you're listening to my podcast and you follow me, you might already be imitating my copy. I see it a lot. It doesn't bother me at all. Copying is very different from getting inspired by and imitating. You have to start off that way to learn the process. But I want to make sure when you're doing that, you're doing it intentionally and you're analyzing it as you do it. And you're talking to yourself saying, look, I know that this sentence is sounding a little bit more like Courtney than it does like me, but there's something about the way she worded that I really like. What is it about that sentence that she wrote that I really like? Is it a specific word? Is it a feeling? Is it because she brought in more slang? Is it because it's really direct and to the point? Is it because she uses a really active verb instead of passive language? What is it about this writing that made me go, oh, I really like this? So this is why I believe in starting out with a template, because when you have a template, and this is where like something like the sales page kit, which all of our E400K clients have the sales page kit, that having that walks you through this process and breaks it all down, right? So that you can have a template and it's not stealing someone else's copy, but it's telling you exactly, okay, how do you come up with a great headline? What makes for a great headline? How can you come up with a headline that is original, but is hitting all these elements that are going to make it work? And it's maybe inspired by some different formulas that you've seen. There is nothing wrong with starting with formulas. In fact, I highly, 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 highly encourage it. And when I see people really bashing templates online, I just think sometimes they're missing part of the picture, that using templates and examples is how we learn. It's not the be all end all. I don't think you should be using a template for everything forever and ever, but it's the way that it's part of that learning process is to break it down and learn it step by step. Okay, tip number 4 that I have for you is to analyze other people's copy. Again, get inspired. Don't copy their copy. We're not copying copy. It's not called copy because we're copying it. In fact, I don't even know why it's called copy. But we are analyzing other people's copy. When I decided to niche down into writing sales pages, one of the things I did was I went and started taking screenshots of other entrepreneur sales pages that I loved. So I actually took little videos because I had to scroll through the whole sales page. And I think that I did this with like an Amy Porterfield sales page, maybe the B School sales page. And normally there were programs I enrolled in, so I knew that they worked on me. I knew that I had bought something from the sales page. And then I literally grabbed a piece of paper and rewrote their sales pages word for word by hand. I learned this from a book that I got from the library when I was training myself to be a copywriter, that someone in this book had learned copy by literally rewriting other people's copy. Again, we're not copying it. No, I didn't share this. It was like chicken scratch on a piece of paper. But in slowing down, and I just think so many people these days don't have the patience to master a craft. And I really encourage you to not be lazy with this. In slowing down and handwriting the words that, I don't know, Amy Porterfield used for her Facebook ads lab, I think it was, I started to notice elements of the strategy. Oh, it's interesting she did this here and used this word. You cannot get that same experience just by reading the sales page. And as I was doing this, I realized I'd really unlocked a really powerful secret to learning copy that I knew that very few people were going to do. And so I share that with you today because I think that it's something you can do. If you see someone wrote an email and you're like, wow, I love reading so-and-so's email newsletters, go find 3 to 5 of their email newsletters and rewrite them by hand and see what you notice as you're doing it. Don't do this mindlessly. It's not like busy work. Do this as like a conscious meditative activity and be so curious what your realizations are when you do this with this sort of mindset versus as a pure consumer receiving the email going, oh, I don't know what it is about their emails, but I just love receiving them. In fact, we have a past client who told me that she gave copies of my email newsletters to her copywriter or VA saying like, these are the types of emails I like and here's why, and was able to say, I like that Courtney is like to the point and that her emails aren't super long and there's always one goal, and like sitting there and analyzing what is it I like about Courtney's email newsletters versus, oh, Courtney sent that email newsletter. I'm so like, I can't get it out of my head and I can't think of my own way of saying that. So I'm just going to copy what she said. You need to pause and ask yourself, what is it about this person's copy that I'm liking so much? You have an obligation to do this because A, you need to learn this skill, and B, you can't plagiarize and copy other people's work. And it is astonishing how often people get lazy, because it is laziness, and copy other people's work. We cannot do that. It is illegal. And while people like me are often more easygoing about it, there are people out there who will sue you and you will get in trouble for this. So please, please, please do not do it. Do not be lazy with your business. You're not going to get very far doing that. Tip number 5 I have for you, and this is very important, and this is something that a lot of people struggle with, is you need to make your language tangible. Vague and abstract language is going to kill your marketing. And if you're a life coach, or if you're any kind of coach, really, coaches really struggle with this, whether they're career coaches or life coaches or parenting coaches or health coaches. I find that the second that people step out of like done for you service land and into coaching, something happens. It's not conscious. It's automatic. It's not anyone's fault, but it's sort of this like, oh, because I'm coaching, I don't have to talk about tangible results anymore. Not the case at all. And you'll really struggle to book clients if that's what you're doing. So we need to find ways of taking abstract concepts like confidence, stress-free, love, like relationship coach, energy, like all these concepts, right? Things that I cannot draw a picture of unless it was an abstract picture. How do I draw a picture of energy, love? Now, if you say, oh, love, I would draw a picture of two people holding hands with a heart over their head. That's two people holding hands with a heart over their head, right? Like that's not a universal representation of love. So when I say love or you say love, we might be imagining two different pictures. But if I say walking hand in hand with your sweetheart, obviously I already said hand in hand, then that's a concrete image, right? And that represents love. But if I just say love, if I just say the umbrella abstract term, now you're asking your audience to come up with their own image of what that means. And you're asking them to do that work. And guess what? Their brains are not going to do that work. Their brains are going to go, yeah, love, that sounds nice. And they're going to say it sounds nice. They're not going to say, I don't know what you mean by that. They're never going to say that. They're going to say, yeah, that sounds nice. And then they're not going to buy your services. They're not going to hire you because it's not specific enough. So we need to look at the core benefits of your value proposition of what you do, what your work is. And we need to, if it's confidence, love, if it's anything that is not a tangible thing, we need to find a way of illustrating it and making it tangible. Here's why. The universal is found in the specific. And I don't know who coined that. I did not make that up. This is a saying. The universal is found in the specific. So many people are afraid to get tangible because they think, well, if I use that example, then not everyone's going to relate to that example. Not true. Let's talk about Harry Potter for a second. I don't know about you, but I read Harry Potter and I loved it. And I'm not a wizard. I cannot personally relate to Harry Potter. I'm not British. I'm not a wizard. I'm not a boy. Like, there's so many things I don't relate to. I'm not an orphan in Harry Potter. But because the imagery was so strong and detailed, I was able to picture it so well in my mind's eye and become connected to the story as if I were Harry Potter or as if I could relate to Harry Potter. And this is what great writing does. If J.K. Rowling had been really vague with her language in writing Harry Potter, people would not be connected to it. If she was like, well, people aren't going to connect with a wizard story because they're not wizards, then she wouldn't have written the story, right? And it wouldn't have had this huge bestseller. Now, of course, there's people who absolutely hate that Harry Potter is a wizard. Harry Potter was banned in a lot of schools. It blows my mind, but was like banned places. And so if J.K. Rowling tried to please everybody by coming up with some very abstract story that was like relatable to all human experiences, it wouldn't be a story at all. Now, I realize that Harry Potter in this example is a piece of fiction and we're talking about helping real life people, but the same psychology is at play. And I'll give you an example of that as well. I was on a sales page for an entrepreneur many years ago, and this is someone who actually has become a coach of mine and is a brilliant copywriter in her own right. And I remember reading this sales page, and she was selling a course on how to launch your course. All right. And in her copy, she gave the general overall result, right? Which is when you launch your course, you're, detaching your income from working with one-on-one clients, which means that it's not dollars per hour. You don't have to break down you don't have a limit on how much you can make based on how many hours you can work because you can sell multiple courses and you don't have to work anymore, right? And so that's the universal experience of courses. And that's pretty good, right? Like it's pretty good language. You're already probably like, yeah, that sounds great. But then what she did is she got really specific. She said, maybe you're someone who loves to travel and, creating an online course would allow you to become a digital nomad and hop around the Greek islands for all winter and skip out on winter where you're from. Maybe you're a mom and you want to be able to pick up your children from school without having to work around the hours, and that you have that time freedom to go pick up your kids from school or, go, chaperone a field trip or something without having to take a vacation day, without having to deal with that, right? And so what I loved is that she took this universal result and then she used very specific examples of what that might look like for different types of people with different reasons for wanting that result. And even though I was not a mom and I didn't relate to that specific example, what I noticed when I read it is that I was picturing it. I was picturing a mom picking up, and I was picturing it at the school that I went to when I was a kid, right? So it was very intimate for me, a mom picking up a child from school. And I remember thinking, wow, that's powerful because I'm not in that situation. And yet the fact that she was so specific with these examples of what this, you might be this, you might be that I was able to feel connected to an example that had nothing to do with my story, right? It had nothing to do with my personal experience or my reality. And so that's why we want to get tangible with our language, all right? So I have one bonus tip for you here. Those are my five core best copywriting tips. My sixth one that I want to encourage you to do is collect language. I want you to pay attention in all of life now. This just to really train yourself to be paying attention when you're having conversations with friends, with family, potential clients. And I want you to pay attention to the language they use when they talk about their problems. I want you to pay attention to voice. I want you to pay attention. I used to have a little voice journal when I first started copywriting where I would jot down like things that my friends said that I thought were funny and that I was like, oh, that's the kind of personality stuff I want to incorporate in my copy. And I had a running list because I was really unlearning academic writing, which is very dry. It's like the opposite of copywriting, right? Like very dry, factual, no first person, no second person, just no person in it. And so I was learning how to make my writing more conversational. And so that took time. And then another way you can do that, because I find a lot of people get stuck and have like writing trauma from school. So much trauma from school, so many things, math, science, writing. But from school with writing is instead of trying to write, try opening up the voice memos on your phone and record yourself talking. So I will do this whenever I get writer's block is I'll go sit in my room and I'll go, okay, I'm trying to come up with what I've got to say about X. And then I'll just, okay, what I'm really trying to say is this. And what I find is in those situations, I'm able to express what it is that I want to say. I also will tell you when I was a copywriter working with clients would really struggle to put things in their questionnaire. Like, who's your target client? Like, what is their core problem? What is their desired result? They would really struggle with that in writing. They felt like they had to like say it a certain way. And then when we discussed verbally those things, they would go, oh, well, what I'm really trying to say is this. And I'm like, well, then we'll just say that. So saying it verbally out loud can oftentimes break through that block that we get from writing. And I actually did this when I was writing a book, as I recorded it verbally for a lot of it. And then I took that and transcribed it and then turned it into parts of the book. So that's my bonus tip for you. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. I want to encourage you, if you don't work with us yet inside of Yay for 100K, to come apply because we are going to be doing this really in-depth copywriting workshop on September 8th that all of our clients will get access to as long as they're working with us. But you'll also get access to all of our templates, every single piece of copy, and not just like emails and sales pages and webinars, but even like your opt-in offer and just like anything you need to create. Emails of like delivering your work to clients, surveys and how to ask questions in the surveys, all this language stuff that I really want you to master. And what I told you here today is I want you to have templates because I think they're such a good learning tool. And then in the program, you submit all these things to us to give you feedback on. So it's like going to university. It's like having a professor who's reviewing your work and helping you improve and get better so that you can really master copywriting and not feel like, I have to rely on this template or whatever that is. We want to get you started with where you are, but we want you to walk away being confident writing copy for your business in general. So go ahead and apply to Yay for 100K over at CourtneyShaw.com/apply. And I will chat with you all in next week's episode where we're going to talk specifically about writing sales page copy. Yay! Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you love today's content and are ready to finally start making a full-time income from your business this year, make sure to get on the wait list for my program, Yay for Clients, over at yayforclients.com, and you'll be notified the next time enrollment is open. Or if you're already booked with clients and you want to learn how you can turn your signature service into a signature program and add 100K of revenue to your bottom line, come apply to my group coaching program, Yay for 100K, over at CourtneyShaw.com/apply. Thanks again and have an awesome day.